r/showerthoughts. Rossetto Snows says, there's no consensus on how many generations removed from an ancestor you can be and still claim to be Irish. Wall Namely Ability says, I mean the Irish Constitution grants citizenship to anyone with at least one parent or grandparent born in Ireland. Given we have a constitutional referendum every 2 or 3 years, the whole document could be said to be a firm consensus of the Irish people. GH0 Sticken says, I have an Irish last name, but my DNA is mostly Scandinavian. I mean the Irish must have one hell of a PR department for so many people wanting to be a part of them. Redstaru7 says, didn't start the world wars, never committed genocide, very rarely projects force got screwed by the British. Spico says, that's a very American thing to consider someone from a nationality other than the one you were born in if one of your ancestors is from said nationality. Here in Europe you're from the nation you were born and or grew in, and that's it. I have a friend whose grandfather is Italian, but as far as everyone is concerned, him included, he is French, not Italian. Fehipopt says, that's because in the US the dominant culture is all from elsewhere originally, and the way many ethnicities survived was by banding together and clinging to their national identity. I'm probably 5th generation American, but I heard, don't forget you're Irish from my dad growing up. Chad Thunder Talk says, plus, being Irish American or Italian American and cultures like it are pretty much their own unique thing by now. Identifying with, say, Italian American culture is plenty valid, even if your family hasn't lived in Italy in 150 years. Gaming for Fun 2001 says, were you born in Ireland or have Irish citizenship? No? Then you're not Irish. Huang says, Irish is a nationality, so it's actually pretty clear where the line is. Edit deleted says, what? Yes, there is. This is defined clearly by Irish law. No consensus among Americans who don't understand how nationalities work. r/showerthoughts. Charloops says, Dr. Google never gives you the most benign reason for your symptoms. Efrans 1224 says, it's a combination of details. 1. It does give all. The bad ones just stick in your mind too. It's traffic. A lot more people reading articles about serious diseases, therefore those may be more prominent. 3. Although probabilities are remote, you are required to inform the worst case scenario. Majority of rectal bleeding, for example, is harmless, hemorrhoids, but you'd better be fully aware of colon cancer and getting worked up. Justinarate says, have a friend who would smoke weed, go on WebMD, and then convince himself he had some horrible terminal illness. Konjalkazan says, when a good doctor hears hoofbeats he thinks horses not zebras. FH3131 says, not really true. Online resources give you all the potential reasons, but some people tend to look at the worst case scenarios. Ionita Thepirit says, yeah, but imagine how pissed people would get if they were told that they were fine and then they ended up actually having the worst case scenario. King Guy 420 says, the other day I looked up a symptom and it actually convinced me not to worry. I was amazed. Felt like a 1 in a million shot. Theraful Things says, lol, I've learned just to not Google, it's always like death, cancer, you're dying. Aj Mascarin says, I usually get nothing to worry about followed by another article that warns of serious health issues, but they rarely explain what the serious health issue is, so I just go down a panic-induced rabbit hole. Sushitan Zenpur says, it's cancer, always cancer. r/showerthoughts. Down Liquor Syndrome says, Chinese food places never need to advertise and don't. He Smiles says, Sending you to key in at menus counts as advertising. Pipe Mem says. They're always in the same places and selling the same things. When you want Chinese food you know where to find it, in one of the middle units in the nearest strip mall. Boss Vlad says. All a Chinese restaurant needs is good word of mouth and it's all set. Happy Sig says. Chinese places also jaff about your ratings. My Uncle says. I've seen them stick menus under every door in a building. I think this only happens when they are new. As Yuri Dreamer says. Most family-owned businesses have very limited advertising relying on the personal touch and goodwill to spread word of mouth. Nixie Bunny says. There was a Chinese restaurant in Tucson that had a steady stream of ads on the local indie TV station when I was young. Later I bought the house right behind the restaurant and got to know the owner Madeline. She was a character. She ran the restaurant for a few years before telling her husband about it back circa 1960. When women didn't often own a business. Rick Misself says. If you sit down at a Chinese restaurant and the hostess treats you like shit, you know the food is good. Eat and get the F_out. MMM. Matzel23 says. Only the huge chain restaurants advertise around here. Others don't, whether Chinese, Mexican, pizza, chicken, seafood, whatever. Bobblecha 2021 says. For the most part, yes, but not always. The Chinese buffet chain Mandarin in Canada has advertised for many years. And I have seen the odd TV ad for local Chinese restaurants over the years. They are not common but they exist. Grookhet says. Most restaurants don't advertise. Only chains do. r/showerthoughts. Significant Crow says. Balloons are, frick, gross because they are filled with other people's breath. Codabunda says. The whole atmosphere is other people's breath. And much worse. That's why I exclusively breathe Perrier. Okginger says. And what do you imagine? That you're breathing in and out all day every day. Lost Betsard says. They're expensive too. Inflation. Individual Pi 9739 says. Have you ever heard of helium? TOMUS says. So are grandma's lungs, but that never stopped me. On Lispido Web says. They're also gross cause they are just fun single-use litter. I like balloons, but they are just fancy litter. Jisco TN says. I give you air from my lungs. Wiki Love says. So is every breath you take in a closed space. Subdominance says. The air around you is filled with other people's breath. Partident says. You better never ride an airplane, not even first class. Carmageral 314 says. You once spent 9 months living off of vagina juice. Trips Overtail says. Ever spent the day working in an enclosed room before? Opening Zebra 1670 says. Most bubble tape is just air imported from China. Hitdrumhid says. So is all the atmosphere of the planet. Gasp. Bohunk Bob says. To me, you are filled with another person's breath. Does that make you a human balloon? Naps and Crimes says. Read that as baboons, and was very confused for a second. Cocaine Lane says. I prefer fart-filled balloons personally. Reddit Stupid Af says. Nobody told them what they are breathing in when they smell a fart. A Godichin 13 says. Maybe he should breathe some diarrhea. r/showerthoughts. Bafrus says. Most ads only reach the people who are too broke to pay to turn off ads. Tilusi says. Or too dumb/lazy to use an ad blocker. Sealed Callum says. Some ain't bothered Just scrollin'. Huang says. Blocking ads is free in most cases. Fukazit says. TF. If you're talking about online, then yeah, but every single one of us is inundated with ads every freaking day, everywhere we go, if we are not terminally online. Edit. Product placement in TV shows. Billboards. Fork Reddit posts that look genuine. Come on. Procnofakacha says. What about us cheapskates? Platisballs says. You don't understand advertising lol. Those ads target people who are easily separated with their money. Vicumithy says. Such a great thought. I'm in marketing, and it's actually really valid as to why people are opting for influencer marketing now. Ilikuachinganam9 says. Now you're out of premium, you won't be bought. Wazo says. Our ad block is not free. Zylba says. You are correct. For the same reason, ads inside a bus or public transport are targeted to average workers, usually banks offering credits to buy cheap cars or vacation in monthly payments. Camping Skeeter says. Loads of us have money and know-how, but just aren't bothered by ads. Exact Club 8513 says. Totally wrong. I see people who simply don't care, or instead find ads interesting. Jillflover 247 says. Or you could download APK modded apps that don't come with ads and have unlocked premium features. Sad Maximum CZ says. And not tech literate enough to block them. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.